We are live. Welcome to the RG DFS Tournaments Takes Podcast, Week 14 edition. We are doing it live. Shout out to everybody in chat, mainly Don Yeezy right now, who's keeping it going for us right now. I'm sure some others, Jug Nation, will be following in. Richie Smalls, good to see you. What's going on? But we are back to break down a 10-game slate, kind of a banana slate, boys. First off, let's just address that Bobby had to bow out of this one this week. Has some stuff going on, so in comes, slots in TJ, which is always dangerous. You never know, but glad to have you, TJ, producer slash co-host on the show. But what's up, fellas? How we doing? TJ first. How are you, man?
Doing pretty well. This is a interesting NFL slate. We had absolutely no value at all at the beginning of the week, and now we are starting to load up with some. We got a bunch of guys that we still don't know if they're going to play. We got a couple backup running backs slotting into heavy roles with not prices to reflect it. So we got an interesting little slate.
Noto, the man, the myth, the legend, is probably upset that he keeps having to redo his content with some running back news. But how are things going? What's up?
Yeah, it pays to procrastinate sometimes. I didn't get my article up till late last night, so I already had most of the news ready to go. And similar to my Christmas shopping, I'm procrastinating, so I got to get that going here in the next few days as well. But yeah, doing good. Excited for the slate, and I love me a cheap quarterback. We got a few in play this week.
Well, we have more than just the cheap quarterback. We have the cheap running backs this week. Shout out to me personally, for also to Dean. We are co-managing a team in a high-stakes season long that I know everybody's dying to hear about, but we are against Irv Gotti, who's up there, and we have Garendo and Braylon Allen. So we just lucked out big time. But that's because Dean's on top of that stuff. We had the waiver. We had the number one waiver. We sat on it all season, and hopefully it pays off. But anyways, I had a good week last week. I rode Mike Evans to the promised land. How'd you guys do, TJ?
It was not a good week for me last week. Or I think main slate went pretty well, or like broke even kind of thing, and then some showdown stuff didn't really go my way. I'm bitter from the Thursday night game because I faded Josh Jacobs, and 3 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns just falling into the end zone. That was pretty frustrating, but I'm ready for this slate. This one's fun.
I do it every slate, but I had like 4K in Yahoo worth of action on the single game, the Broncos. And I never play the defense. So I faded the Broncos defense, but I did it for Njoku. So I was like monster ahead, like the entire slate until the very last freaking pick 6, and then the last interception, and then Jameson, they caught me by like a point, and it brutal. But that's why I was making fun of people saying that the DFS Twitter has turned into just a bunch of people complaining about all the good plays that they didn't play themselves. Now, and then I started complaining myself, saying that the fish D got there. But anyways, great slate. If you're down, if you're up, you want to win all your money back, or if you want to just press, this is a good slate for it. We got a lot of ways to go here, but really to me, this is all about the running back position. But big picture overview, Noto, start us off with a little injury and just a big picture overview.
Yeah, so obviously we're waiting on a lot of injuries. Doesn't sound like Breece Hall's going to play, so Braylon Allen's going to be pretty popular. Obviously, you have Isaac Garendo, who is going to draw the start for the Niners. Now it looks like Kenneth Walker's questionable. Don't know what to do there, especially with him being in the late game. Charbonnet would take over a major role, and he's pretty cheap too. So yeah, a lot of cheap running backs that we can play, and then some really good expensive running backs too, in Saquon Barkley and Alvin Kamara. My favorite game stack is going to be Tampa in Las Vegas. I just think that's a game that we know, you can throw the ball against Tampa. We saw Bryce Young go nuts against them. So I'm kind of hoping Aiden O'Connell does the same. He's got two obvious stacking mates. And then you can bring it back with either, Evans or potentially Rashad White, depending on Bucky Irving. So a lot to sift through over the next day or two. But, what are you guys doing with the chalk running backs?
Yeah, I had I was going to segue my dad joke of we might be getting a free glass of Chardonnay this week, but at least got it out right there. But TJ, I was trying to guess like how's TJ going to play this slate from the running back. I had like two theories. Like either you're going to like go just take like the top 5, like you're going to take the 3 chalky cheap ones because they're such good plays, and like the 2 high end such good plays, and just like that's it. That's going to be your whole pool, and you're going to differentiate somewhere else, or you're going to like flip that on its head. What are you thinking this week? I was really curious.
First one, I'm going to have a very small pool, but it is going to include the chalky running backs. Garendo and Allen are absolutely going to be features for me. Saquon Barkley as well, I do like, and I want to get to him, but I think I like Alvin Kamara even more. I would have preferred if Kendre Miller wasn't active for this one, but I still think this is going to be Kamara's backfield. No Taysom Hill to worry about in this one. They run so much of their offense through him. So I'm assuming it's going to be Kamara who's getting the insane amount of touches like he did earlier in the season without Taysom Hill. So those are going to be my top 4, and I'll add in Charbonnet if Kenneth Walker is hurt. I loved Bucky Irving, but he still hasn't practiced this week. So Bucky Irving earlier in the week was like my favorite play. If he's out, I'll play a lot of Rashad White and a lot of Sean Tucker. But if he's in, even if it's just kind of questionable all week, doesn't practice much, and then he plays, I'm still going to be getting to a ton of him in tournaments with hopefully lowered ownership because of that Q tag all week. Only other guys I'm considering in my pool are Najee Harris and DeAndre Swift, but I'm not sure if they're going to make it. Harris, I do like. Swift, I liked with the thought process of if Roshan Johnson is out, Nick Bosa's out, and that San Francisco defense is not the same without him. They've been giving up tons of fantasy points to running backs. If Roshan's out and Swift is in, and we don't have to worry about that vulturing at the goal line, I do like Swift, but Swift hasn't practiced yet this week either. So it's a really interesting situation there in Chicago. We might have another value running back opening up. Swift and Harris are my guys on the edge. I'll definitely have Tampa Bay running backs regardless of who's in. The cheapies, Charbonnet, Garendo, and Allen, assuming Kenneth Walker's out. And then Barkley and Kamara, my only spend-ups up top.
All right, we just went heavy running back to start the show. So
I forgot that I probably was only supposed to still go in overview mode. But I heard running back, and then my brain was just like, oh, we're in running backs.
To be fair, running back, like, biggest part of the slate.
Yeah, it is the biggest part of the slate. So we'll talk about that again in a second. So let's just go quickly. We got 10 games. And before we do that, let's talk about Splash Sports real quick. Splash, if you haven't signed up, still now is the time to do it. Promo code ROTO10. And when you play 100 in quick picks, you'll get another $50. So go to splashsports.com/RotoGrinders homepage. Also, RG Combo Plus DFS is all about value. This is the busiest time in the sports calendar, which means the perfect time to sign up for RG Combo for a limited time. Get your first month of combo access for just $79.99. That's just $5 more than NBA Premium. Don't pass up this great value. And lastly, we got the props and pick'em. We got a bunch of tools going on over here at RG. You get expert picks for all your favorite sites with props and pick'em. Our elite sports betting and fantasy pick'em package features bets and analysis from your favorite RG experts, props, and pick'em. Also includes tools and data powered by our hardworking projections team. So don't make a bet without it. So we got that out of the way. So 10 games, 6 teams on a bye. I'm just going to go over anything with a 45-point total or higher. So that's Buffalo minus 3.5 at the Rams, leading the way with a 49.5-point total. We've got the Raiders at Tampa. 6.5-point spread, 46-point total. We've got Atlanta at Minnesota, 5.5-point favorites for Minnesota, and 45.5-point total. And is Justin Jefferson ever going to score a touchdown? Hopefully this week. Then we got Carolina at Philly. The Eagles are 13.5-point favorites and with a 45.5-point total. That sets up an interesting spot to deal with Saquon. Also, just looking at the team totals, Philly is a monster, 29.5, 3 points higher than the next, which is Tampa. You got Buffalo right there. Then you got Minnesota, Miami, and Pittsburgh. Those are some decent team totals. Do what I always do quickly, just talk about snaps and pace over at ETR. The 3 high-paced games are Atlanta at Mini, Cleveland at Pitt, and the Raiders at Tampa. And I'll reference that with Cardi. Blitz most plays. He's got similar thinking with Cleveland at Pitt, New Orleans at the Giants, which is interesting, but he always loves New Orleans games, just regardless, dome, no dome. The Saints are in the blitz most plays always, and Atlanta at Minnesota. All right. Like I said, 10 games. Let's do what we always do. Talk about the running back position, which we gave you a little bit of a feeler from TJ first, and then we'll talk. What? Yeah, it's all right. And we'll talk about the quarterback position, build our stacks with the wide receivers, tight ends, talk about some defensive plays, build a lineup, give some UFC picks, and then we out of here. All right. So at the running back position, from a chalk standpoint, all the news, the big news is, like the TJ was saying and Noto was saying, is that first, Breece Hall looks like he's not going to play. He's doubtful. And there's also rumors out there that he's going to be potentially shut down for the season. So we're interested to see how that plays. But Braylon Allen is a stud. He is an absolute freak. He was at Wisconsin. He's young, but he is good, and he's 5K and against the Dolphins. So that's a chalk piece right there. Guerrero is the San Francisco back with Mason and CMC now down. 50, what is he? He's 5,400. Also playing Chicago, which is a good matchup. That's what you do, is you run on Chicago. And then like I said, we might get a glass of Chardonnay with Kenneth Walker out. He had, in a similar situation with Walker out this season, he was like 92% of the snaps. So he's 4,800. He's also very viable in the pass game. So those are 3 like rock solid, good, cheap chalk plays. Then we have 2 major high-end great plays. We've got, like TJ was saying, Alvin Kamara, because Taysom's gone. It's also against the Giants. It's also the amount of, he might get 25 to 30 touches in this game. Kind of immune to the end zone, but with Taysom out of there, let's hope that's not the case this week. And then you got Saquon Barkley. Everyone's talking about Barkley. He's 9K. It's going to be interesting because he's the guy that like people are going to sacrifice when they're, I think, just because he's more expensive and because of you can make a blowout scenario. But he's also an absolute beast, leading rusher this season, just going nuts. But the thing that people forget is that in the blowout against the Cowboys, he scored less than 9 fantasy points. So there is a little bit of risk there with the tush push that, if that rears its head back in our way. And then the thing about him too is he's actually, a lot of people like were in the Blitz chat, like think he's been a fish play all season. They're saying he's just, huge outlier, but he's also run bad. Like he's been tackled at the 1 like more times than anybody in the NFL, it seems like. But anyway, those 2 high end plays, that's all running backs. Then we got to try to find some other plays that we like potentially. But since we heard TJ already, I'll let Noto start it off. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think you broke down the position really well. I think we should each go through, give our favorite spend of the 2, Kamara and Barkley, and then, rank the 3 values, just because I think all 5 are great plays. So I just am curious how you guys feel about it. I think I'm going to do a 50-50 split between Kamara and Barkley myself. And then the cheap guys, I like Guerrero, Charbonnet, and then Braylon Allen. But curious to hear your rankings.
Yeah, so I kind of like if Walker's out, Charbonnet is my favorite, I think. He saves you a little money, but I might just go all 3. Like I honestly think that any of these guys can keep pace potentially with a Saquon in a blowout risk scenario, and potentially Kamara. So I don't know. I don't know if I haven't really built yet, but I'm kind of like these plays are so rock solid strong. So like I'm gonna see at least start seeing what I can get there. But I might want Kamara or Saquon. I think I would fade Saquon first, and I would go Kamara just because you get those savings, and then you could potentially spend that with like maybe like Josh Allen or something like that. And also, like I said, like there are scenarios where he doesn't absolutely smash. This could be a blowout. It could be they have a ton of weapons, right? Like, and also the tush push could always come back and play. So I think he's more fadeable, is what I'm thinking. But what do you think of TJ?
I agree. I think he's more fadeable. I like Kamara better just because of the lack of Taysom. You know he's going to get a ton of touches. It's against the Giants, is almost as good of a matchup as Carolina, if not as good of a matchup these days. And you get the savings, $1,000 difference. Now, I do wonder if, Barkley was the big projected chalk at the beginning of the week. It seems like Kamara is getting steamed up as the week goes on. And now we already have Garendo and Allen. We might get Charbonnet. We might get Rashad White and Sean Tucker. Sean Tucker is even cheaper than all of these guys, I think. So I do kind of wonder if Saquon Barkley's ownership might go down as we get closer to Sunday. And if that's the case, if he's coming in as the 6th highest projected owned running back behind Kamara, Garendo, Allen, Charbonnet, maybe a Tampa Bay Bucks guy. If that ends up being the case, then I'm going to try and load up on Barkley in tournaments. But so a lot of it's going to come down to ownership for me. As it stands in a vacuum, I like Kamara better. But in terms of the spend ups, if Barkley ends up, he was 30% owned earlier in the week. Right now we're projecting him for 21. If on Sunday we're projecting him for 17, all of a sudden I think Barkley might end up becoming my favorite spend up. Of the cheap options, I genuinely don't know. I think Braylon Allen probably comes last because Miami's been pretty good against the run. So Charbonnet and Garendo probably go up higher. I like their roles best, Charbonnet and Garendo's, but I also think Braylon Allen is the most dynamic player of the three of them. So it's a really tough spot. I think on DraftKings where we get rewarded for the pass catching, which I believe Charbonnet and Garendo will get more of than Braylon Allen, I think I would drop him third, but I would say Garendo has the highest ceiling of the group and Charbonnet is the highest floor, and it's really a coin flip of the two of them, which I'd rather go with.
Allen can do passing game work. I know they have Johnson, or who do they use? Who's the third? Can't remember. It's not Johnson.
Isaiah Davis.
That's who it is. Isaiah Davis. Sorry.
Davis, Johnson, same thing. Very common names.
Yeah, whatever.
So with Walker being the afternoon game, are you guys gonna, if we don't know his status, are you guys still prioritizing Charbonnet?
That's tough.
Yeah.
I'll just have to get a lean on what I think and make my decision, but I'll probably still.
Yeah, because we have Chicago and San Francisco at that time as well. And so, or like after that game even starts, 20 minutes after. So if say Saquon or if Kenneth Walker is in, then just do everything I can to hopefully not have many lineups with only one player left in them and switch all my Charbonnet to Garendo. Or if I can't get to Garendo, Garendo's already in the lineup, start looking at that Chicago running back situation. If Roshan's out, DeAndre Swift, if they're both out, I don't even know who the third back is there right now. Travis Homer. 4K Travis Homer week.
Yeah, he's not gonna. I would take Charbonnet all day over 4K.
For sure, but if you get in the situation where Roshan and DeAndre Swift are both out and Kenneth Walker plays, I think pivoting all your Charbonnet to Homer is probably the best option you have.
Isn't he like a specialty like pass catching back, or am I making that up?
There was a situation where a couple years ago where Seattle was down all their running backs, and he was the pass catcher of the two backs that they had.
Yeah. I'll tell you. So, Lip, your boy Lippy in chat here. He's talking about Tony Pollard, and I love Tony Pollard this week against Jacksonville. He's going to get squeezed out. He's 6,400. But like out of all, this is the game at home against Jacksonville where he could absolutely nuke. And I would not be shocked. I would not be shocked if he outscores Saquon. If they blow out and you get the right run out.
I think he's interesting. I think he's interesting, but I don't currently have him. If he's in if I have 6,400 remaining in that range, if Bucky Irving plays, I can't afford him. I can only get to Pollard. I'm totally happy playing him, but he's not like a main target for me.
No, first Don Yeezy, love you, buddy, Vice President of Jug Nation. But he's getting on Lippy for naming every player in chat and talking. He names every bad play usually in chat and then takes credit for it. So I just wanted to make that distinction. But I think Pollard's a good play. But what are some other guys? What about like Bijan or tough to go down? As much as my love for James Conner, it's tough to go down to him. I could see some leverage situations that work out with Aaron Jones. I don't know. I'm kind of trying to think to myself, like Kyron Williams. The Buffalo has been a team you can run on. It's good weather there. The game could absolutely shoot out. People have totally forgot about him with Puka and Kupp back, and obviously he hasn't produced. But the Rams in general haven't produced. He did have 21 fantasy points sneakily in that New Orleans game. I felt like worse than that, but he ran for 100 yards, had a touchdown. I could get on board with that. What are you thinking, Noto?
Yeah, my favorite two low-end guys, you mentioned Pollard. The Jaguars have just been terrible against every position, and he pairs nicely with the defense too if you're looking to stay like the defense. And then Kieran Williams. Buffalo gives up a lot of production to pass-catching backs. You mentioned that game has potential shootout. It's in LA, which helps. I think that game's going to be competitive. And yeah, the way to move the ball against Buffalo has been through the running back position. So I like Kieran. I like Tony Pollard, but I probably won't be getting too cute with anybody else. I mean, I guess you could look to Achane. I mean, this guy has been 30% owned the last few weeks, and he's been crushing every week, and now nobody wants to play him in a great matchup against the Jets.
Yeah. Somehow the Jets D did well for me last weekend, even though they lost the game. They had that run back return. Yeah, I think we've covered. I mean, everything else is like a stretch to me. I mean, I certainly wouldn't want to put my faith in Najee Harris to beat all of these great plays. I do like the Achane call. Rachaad White could get a lot more interesting. I don't want to play James Cook. Yeah, I think we've hit every pretty much viable play, to be honest with you. Unless you got.
There's an important question in chat. I think if Bucky is out, how do we rank the Tampa Bay backs relative to all of these cheap options? And you have to think Rachaad White would project as one of the very best because he's already projecting well for 5,300. And so if Bucky Irving's out, he probably is now having the same looking projection as Braylon Allen and Isaac Orendo. And then Sean Tucker's only 4,300. And he's probably going to project well. He's the most interesting one because I think he has more upside than Rachaad White. But he also hasn't touched the ball since he fumbled on the goal line that last time. So maybe we're trying to win the division. We're in the hunt. We're just going to give our veteran the ball, and Rachaad White gets 20+ touches. So
that's
those
exactly
are, I think, very interesting for tournaments.
That's it to me. You nailed it. Is that this is an important game for them. Tucker went off wasn't it a blowout when he went off in that one game?
Well, no, even so, the last time he went off was everybody played went off big time and he won the Millie Maker. It was everybody played Bucky Irving, and then because Rachaad White was out and Sean Tucker got a bunch of touches. Now he in a couple of games ago he was getting all of their goal line looks even when Bucky Irving would get them down there, and then he got stuffed on the one and then he got in, and then on his next one he fumbled it, and then Rachaad White got the touchdown. And he has barely played. He's barely been on the field since that fumble. But if Bucky Irving doesn't play, they may just go, "Hey, you're explosive, you're dynamic. We'll go back to you here," especially in a situation where they're up 21-0.
Yeah, if that's the case. But you know what? It's going to be Mike Evans' day anyway.
Yeah.
So,
But I'd go White over Tucker myself.
me too. An important game. That's the way I play it. All right.
I think you want to get
Yeah.
exposure to both if you're playing lots of lineups, though.
For sure. Okay, let's say, where would you put either one of those compared to the other three values if we know that Bucky Irving's out?
First off, I think Bucky Irving's going to be in.
I kind of hope so. I don't
I
want
kind of hope
another
so too, just
decision.
so I don't have to worry about it. And Irving will be my favorite then in that price range. Then I don't have to worry about more cheap backs.
But I still feel much better about Charbonnet. I think their role is more defined. Like, I think I would play Rashad White first, but again, he's kind of somewhat washed, has been for like a little while. But the experience and the knowledge of the offense and everything, and him in the passing game is a plus for him. So I think they would lean with him. And I feel better about first of all, like, let's just talk about, like, Garendo is a huge, fast, athletic back in the San Francisco offense. Like, sounds like a smash. Charbonnet has already shown us what he can do. 92% of the snaps in similar situations. Rock solid play. Braylon Allen, like, it's debatable, like, who's even better between Breece Hall and Braylon Allen in general. He's younger, but they are both like dynamic, electric backs on that team for the Jets, and this is like his time to shine. So I feel really rock solid about those three. I would still put the Tampa situation behind all three of those personally.
Just because of matchup, I think I had to put the Tampa in above Braylon Allen, but kind of in line, maybe a little below the rest of them. I do think it's worth
I can see that.
Really hammering home that this is absolutely a slate. No matter what the format you're playing three running backs. That's not a day to mess around with tight end at flex, not a day to mess around with receiver at flex, even, because there are so many good running back plays at every single price tier. I was kind of narrowing it down. I don't know how many lineups I'm going to play yet. Maybe 3, maybe 20, maybe 150. But I think even if I were playing 1,000, there are only, if Bucky Irving plays 12 running backs in consideration in a pool, if Bucky Irving does not play 13 that you even want to remotely think of. And I think you can narrow it down tighter than that. But I think there are only 13 guys you'd want to remotely think of. And that's Barkley, Achane, and Kamara up top. Achane, I don't think I'll get to, but I definitely can't fault you because he's going to probably be single-digit owned. Kyren Williams, Bucky Irving, Tony Pollard, Najee Harris, 6K to 8K range. I think that's it. I think we can get rid of everybody else. Najee Harris, I think you can probably get rid of him too. I don't know if I'll get to Bucky or Kyren, but I think they're in great spots. So if you're in a really large field, I think you include those in the pool. Sub 6K, I think you want to monitor the Tampa situation and the Bears situation. DeAndre Swift may be viable. Travis Homer may be viable, but it would only be one of them. Somebody mentioned MC Kidlet mentioned Tyrone Tracy in chat as a sneaky play. I agree. I think that is sneaky and viable. If he has big touchdowns and the other guys score 20 points, he has 25, that can win you a tournament, win you a GPP. So I don't think I will get there again. But if you're playing a lot of lineups in a very large field tournament, I think he is a very sneaky play. And then, of course, the big three of Braylon Allen, Charbonnet, and Gray.
I think Tracy's in play in small field stuff too. He's 50. He's right in that same price range like as Swift. He's been really solid. The problem is you're betting on the the Giants offense, which is God knows right now. But New Orleans has been a great matchup. So
the other scary thing is he's probably going to have 5 to 8 less touches than all the other guys.
Yeah, but he could make those. And then it's like, do you view it as a positive or a negative with Neighbors being out if he's out?
Yeah.
I didn't even realize Neighbors was questionable, if I'm being totally honest.
He hasn't practiced.
Yeah, he didn't practice on Friday.
I think I'd probably see that as a positive.
I'm leaning towards him being out personally, but yeah, I think he's in play. I think that's a good call. All right, I think we've hit every running back play, but let's talk about quarterback because this is where it gets kind of interesting because so before Charbonnet opened up, and also let me just say quickly. So I ran 100 lineups really quickly just to like give like a quick to see what I was getting with like a 15% randomness and like turning lineups, and I only got 4 running backs. I got the 3 cheapies and Kamara, and so the ownership is going to condense like every single play from there. It's just these plays are like so good, like these 3 chalk plays if they work out the way they should. Like these are the strongest running back plays we've had of the season for cheap. All right, quarterbacks. But so everyone was trying to jam in Kamara and Saquon before we got the third cheapie to discuss here. So I'm not sure how that's going to affect ownership with the quarterback position, but it looks like Sam Darnold is going to be the most popular. And then we're talking about guys like Will Levis, which is insane to me, and AOC, and Caleb, and Kyler Murray potentially. It's like then you get down to like Hurts. No one's going to be playing Josh Allen. If that's the case, if Josh Allen's 8K, but if people are playing Will Levis and he's going to be chalk, like I'm going to figure out a way to get Josh Allen, the MVP front runner, in my lineup, and I might just have to play him naked because like he's got like a full arsenal of weapons now. Everyone should be back. It seems like Coleman will be back. Cooper's there. Both of his tight end weapons now. So everyone's going to be back. I don't know who to really pair with the stack. I don't even feel comfortable, but like I just hope like he gets a couple rushing TDs. But there's just such a better ceiling with that guy. But how are you handling quarterback, Noto?
Yeah, I don't mind the 3 cheap running backs with Josh Allen. I think that's certainly viable, especially rolling him out solo because I never feel good about pairing with anybody. But it's hard for me not to play AOC this week. We've seen Kirk Cousins dust this Buccaneers defense twice. We saw Bryce Young have a ceiling game against them last week. And if you look at like the projections, Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers are the best plays at their positions. So why wouldn't we like the quarterback that's throwing on the ball, at 4,800? He lets you get one of the more expensive running backs in Barkley or Kamara. You can do a little game stack, like I mentioned, bring back Mike Evans or one of the running backs from Tampa. So he's my favorite. I mean, Tampa's just been shredded by the pass all year. They've allowed the second most fantasy points to quarterbacks. And AOC looked pretty good last week. So he's my favorite. I don't mind Will Levis, but I do worry about Jacksonville's ability to provide some pushback with Mac Jones under center. I don't really have a strong take on anyone else. I mean, Darnold's probably your safe cash game play, but tournaments, I'd rather take my chances elsewhere.
And what are any famous Jameis, or are you scared of Pitt?
Not scared of Pitt anymore. Yeah, I don't mind him. I think I like AOC better, but he's fine.
What about you, TJ?
Yeah, I think it's a day that I'm almost going to ignore the mid-range completely. The only mid-range guys I'd have moderate interest in large field tournaments would be Sam Darnold or Baker Mayfield. But Darnold's picking up some ownership, so I think I'm going to go elsewhere. I love the idea of rolling with the 3 cheap running backs and then going Josh Allen naked or Jalen Hurts naked. Richie Smalls mentioning that in chat, and I agree. Like Hurts, I had a lot less interest in before. But now that we have these cheap running backs, and if Barkley is going to be somewhat chalky, that's a nice way to go elsewhere and just say, hey, hope Hurts gets the touchdowns. And then you play the cheap running backs with them and you get double leverage in that situation. I'm mostly going to be going to the cheap guys, though. I will have some Allen and Hurts lineups, but I'm mostly going to the cheap guys. I'm with Noto. O'Connell is my favorite on the slate. I'm going AOC all the way. Will Levis, I will play, but not in anything less than a double stack. I will play minimum 2 of his pass catchers just because he's going to be chalky. And I'm even going to do some triple stacks. Like I like the idea of, especially if everybody's going to be paying down at running back, paying up at all 3 running back positions, up to at least like Kamara, Barkley, and then a Bucky Irving or another guy in the mid range, and playing Westbrook, Akine, Ridley, and Okongwu with Will Levis and go with the triple stack, because even though he's 11% owned, a triple stack with him won't be chalky. And because there are so many good cheap options, we probably will need 25 plus from these cheapies to get there. We're not going to be getting there with a 13-point performance. I don't think it's crazy to take shots on some of the other ones, though. It's super duper low ownership. I like the Jameis Winston call. I'll be getting there. Cleveland allows a ton of deep balls. What does Russell Wilson like to do? Throw deep balls. And so I'm going to be playing some Russell Wilson at no ownership, just like last week. Drew Lock, I think, is viable against New Orleans because their defense is terrible and he runs. Mac Jones, I think, is viable against Tennessee because their defense has been completely falling apart. And as much as I hate him, I think Derek Carr is viable as well.
What if I told you there was a quarterback who 2 weeks ago threw for 300 plus yards, 4 touchdowns, 31 fantasy points, follows that up with 28 fantasy points the following week, in not the easiest of matchups, Green Bay, not the toughest, but against Green Bay, where he threw 365 yards and is now gets facing the Jets without Sauce Gardner. Would that be something that might interest you? He's only 6,300 and on less than 5% owned.
If there weren't so many other quarterbacks I also liked, if Tua was still sub 6K, I would be liking him.
Who you playing with, Tua?
I mean, you can play. I mean, that can you trust Tyreek Hill to maybe ever do anything? Can you, or do you play Waddle? You could play him with Achane and one of those guys. Jonnu, you can play Jonnu. Obviously, Jonnu's going to lose all the thunder he had, because the tight end is so stacked, and he's kind of a little bit overpriced. But like the target volume with that guy, I don't know.
It's viable for sure.
I probably will end up playing Tyreek because that's just what I do. I just lose money on Tyreek every week. But
yeah, I've tried Tyreek so many times.
And now he's throwing out tweets for like making it sound like he's retiring or it's the end of the road. Did you see that? Like he was talking about love what you do because it's not going to last forever. Something like that. Yeah. I mean, I would love to ship a tournament with Tyreek this week and shove it in Dean Shavelson's face, Nothing would make me happier. But probably won't work. But that's what I'd do. All right. Who else? Nobody, right?
Not for me.
No.
Yeah. I don't.
Kyler?
Really? Yeah. Because like he's that one that's like right in that range that like we actually know he can have like go off on a rushing upside that Seahawks could shoot out that game. He's at home. Yeah, I like Kyler.
I'm not getting there. Kyler's been. I feel like Kyler's never really gotten there all season long, and there are just so many good options.
All right, let's go over to wide receiver. Interesting again. We've got Chalky. The Chalky is like that mid range, so it's like Juwan Jennings with everybody banged up, 5,200. Chalk scares me a little bit. But anyways, he looks like a solid play. Jacoby Myers, just for let alone targets galore against this Tampa Bay secondary. I mean, this Tampa Bay defense is just ridiculous and their offense keeps up. So good shootouts every week. That's why Noto and you guys like this game. Jerry Jeudy, huh? I was so mad at myself for not thinking about revenge the other night. Like hammering all his prop overs, but because he really had like real revenge. But like not only that, he's like a top pick, like loads of talent. Maybe finding Jameis. The one thing about Jameis is he's a good leader, so he could have been like Jeudy. This is like it could be exactly what Jeudy needed. So I think he's a good player. Tough match against Pitt, but I don't think that matters so much because Jameis is just going to chuck. So like the opportunity is there, and that's what counts. Mike Evans is my favorite. I loved him last week. I was so happy to like get him kind of lower on than I thought he would be. Calvin Ridley, love that. Like him every week, but and then man, you got to play Justin. Like, is Justin Jefferson going to go off this week? Yes or no?
He hasn't this season.
I know it's so
crazy.
His
price, he doesn't have one tournament winning week.
He has one touchdown in against Detroit in week 7. Nothing sick since. Just insane.
It's easier to get to him this week, though.
Yeah. I mean, he looks like the top high end guy. So Mike Evans and Justin Jefferson look like the top guys for the high end than all those others. All right. So who else you like, Noto?
Yeah, I love the two narratives. Mike Evans, he needs about 480 yards over the last 5 games to get to 1,000 yards, I think, for the 12th straight season. And Baker came out and said it's really important to the team to get him to that number. So I think he's going to see a bunch of targets. And we forget that, Chris Godwin's out. If this would have been early in the season, Chris Godwin goes out, Mike Evans would be 40% owned at this price point. So love him in that game. And then you mentioned the revenge narrative for Jerry Jeudy. We got it for Calvin Ridley this week against the Jaguars. Played a ton of man defense, consistently get beat deep. Their best cornerback's banged up too. So I love those two. I like Drake London a little bit. We've seen Minnesota, they're so good against the run, and they blitz a ton. So I'm thinking, he runs a lot of his routes right over the middle. I think he's going to get a bunch of targets in this one. They've also allowed the 3rd most fantasy points to wide receivers this season. And yeah, I don't know what to do with Justin Jefferson. I'll keep playing Juwan Jennings. He's playing that Brandon Ayuk role and just not priced for it. Prefer him over Debo for sure. That's about it. What about you, TJ?
Yeah, I think Jennings is the best receiver on the slates, even with that ownership. Like, he should be $1,500 more expensive. I don't really know why they refuse to price him up in this spot. Drake London is probably my favorite above 5K. I want to get to him as much as I can. Great matchup against Minnesota. Can't run against them in a dome. They give up a lot of passing targets, and even though Kirk Cousins looked terrible, all he does is pepper Drake London. So really, really like him in this spot. Love the Mike Evans call. Going to be getting to a ton of him. I haven't decided on Justin Jefferson yet, if I'm being honest. Like, just the fact that he's going to be probably chalky and he hasn't done anything yet this season makes me feel like I'd rather not play him. I don't hate the idea of going to Tyreek Hill instead of him. Somebody like Cooper Kupp, who's a little bit cheaper. The Cleveland wide receivers, I think, are in another great spot without Cedric Tillman. The reason why they're tough to target is because it's so spread out between Tillman, Moore, and Jeudy and Njoku. But when one of them's out, it condenses so much. And so Cedric Tillman's going to be out a lot again this week. These guys were just absolutely peppered with targets, and they're probably going to be coming from behind again, even though it's a tough matchup. And so we're looking at Jeudy had 13 targets last week. Elijah Moore had 9 touches, 14 targets last week. So I think we go right back to the well with these Cleveland wide receivers as cheapies. Keenan Allen with DJ Moore coming into this game, questionable whether Moore plays or not. I think he's interesting. Calvin Ridley, if you're playing Levis. If not, I don't think I really need to get there. Myers is great, but I'm probably going to only play him with O'Connell. I'm not going to play him elsewhere just because of how highly owned he's coming in. I like Adam Thielen quite a bit. He had limited snaps in his first game. The last game, he had 10 targets with Bryce Young. Bryce Young's been looking a lot better. We know they're going to be way behind against Philadelphia. And so I think Adam Thielen's probably another guy that's going to get a ton of targets this week. That's it for the guys I really like. But there's a couple other very specific spots I want to target for tournaments. I mentioned Hurts naked at the quarterback position, but I think the best guy to stack him with is Devonta Smith. He's back from injury. He's fully healthy. Dallas Goedert is on the injured reserve. And he's $5,800 coming in at 2%.
You could make a narrative case to get him going, for the little home stretch here.
Now, like, they probably don't need to throw the ball. Hurts probably throws the ball 17 times in this game. But at 5,800, all you need is a couple deep balls from Devonta Smith. They might try and get him going in the end zone. He's historically always been targeted more in games that Dallas Goedert doesn't play. So, like, we're used to paying $1,000 more than this Devonta Smith. It's kind of a price play at no ownership. I think he's super interesting for tournaments. And then this spot interested me a lot more prior to all the running back value opening up. Like, I thought this was interesting when we had 0 3K range receivers to play, and we still have 0 3K receivers to play, but we don't really need that anymore with the cheap running back value. However, there are still going to be lineups where I want to play Saquon and Kamara together. I want to play Brock Bowers, something like that, alongside my expensive running backs. So this is where I think we need to look to the Pittsburgh pass catchers. George Pickens is dealing with a groin, a hamstring, all kinds of things. I think he's probably going to play. But Calvin Austin is looking like he's probably going to get through concussion protocol, but I think he's still dealing with a few things and is questionable. Russ loves to throw a deep ball. If he's down 1 or 2 of these receivers, Mike Williams and Van Jefferson are going to be stepping into much bigger roles at no ownership, with nobody playing them in the stacks. We could get Russell Wilson and 2 of his receivers for a combined 6% owned. And if they connect on a couple deep balls, I think that would be huge for GPPs. Now, if he plays, I think if all of them play, I think Pickens and Austin would be the only one I'd want to take shots on. I would just leave Mike Williams and Jefferson out of it. But if one of these guys is out, I think that's where we can look to them as a very low owned tournament, high upside option.
All right. I just want to throw out there DJ Moore. I think he's going to play. He's only missed 2 games in 7 years, according to an ESPN article I read also. And that was a concussion once, and COVID was the other one. And he says he's very optimistic he's going to play. And he just got 16 freaking targets. He's coming off, really solid game the week before that too against Minnesota. He's humming now. Like this Bears offense is humming now. They're finally got rid of their idiot. What awful clock man. Like that was just so painful to watch on Thanksgiving. Craziness. Anyways, but so I think DJ Moore, like people are going to not play him because of the being questionable if he does suit up. And I think that could be a mistake. But any final thoughts, you guys, Noto?
Don't hate Brian Thomas.
Yeah,
Got 10 targets last week. Mac Jones. Tennessee's defense doesn't really scare me. Do you guys like any of the Saints receivers? I feel like we don't need them because of all the value at running back. But no Taysom, no Olave, no Shaheed. Is there anyone we can play there?
MVS with one of the tight ends, I think, are viable, but I think I like the Saints tight ends better than their receivers.
Looks like Bud Means is out too.
I just can't jump on MVS now. I feel like I missed it.
No. He's getting 3 targets a game.
But then again, he's going to be 2% owned again.
I wouldn't play MVS unless I was doing a car stack.
Yeah, forget these guys. All right. Tight end. Chalk galore, Brock Bowers. You could make the case he's a wide receiver 1 and he's only 6,500. Great matchup against Tampa, coming off 33 fantasy points, and then an off week against Denver, and then 34 fantasy points against Miami. So in good matchups in high passing situations, which is what this one should be again, and that's how you obviously beat the Bucs. I mean, he looks like a smash play. But it is still tight end. These guys do bust. So there's Trey McBride, easy kind of pivot. Like eventually he's going to score a touchdown. Might score 2 or 3. Then regression all hit in this game. But he's in play. Njoku is in play with Jameis, I think. And then there's Evan Ingram. There's Juwan Johnson. There's Jonnu Smith. And then lastly, there's the forgot about George Kittle, who complained about only getting 1 target or one pass to catch last. I think he had 1 2 targets, 1 catch. So who do you like, Noto?
Yeah, I'm trying to get as much exposure as I can to Bowers and McBride. Bowers has 40 targets over the last 3 games. With Aiden O'Connell under center, his air yard share is 40%, which is pretty ridiculous for a tight end. Great matchup against Tampa Bay, too. And then Trey McBride, we just saw him go nuts against Seattle 2 weeks ago. You mentioned he's got 0 receiving touchdowns on the season. Eventually, he's going to find the end zone. So those are my 2 favorites by far. I don't think I love the mid-range as much as everyone else. I'll take a chance without Njoku and Jonnu and Ingram. And I don't really love any of the cheap guys, maybe Juwan Johnson. But, yeah, give me all the Bowers, give me all the McBride.
Yeah, I think John Johnson makes a lot of sense. What about who's Philly's
Calcaterra?
Yeah, Calcaterra. Tough, right? Like, wouldn't you'd feel, I feel like I wouldn't want to punt off tight end, I think, with these good plays there when I can just like play one of the cheap running backs that I think are so much better.
And he's 3,500. He's not.
Yeah, he's not even exactly. It's not even. That feels like a punt,
Yeah.
Because of the 6,500 on Brock. Who else? I like the Juwan Johnson. I think he could see a lot of action. I don't know. I just want to say that shout out to me for calling Pat Fryermuth that nobody liked last week at 3,800.
I did try to talk you out of that. Not bad.
Bobby too. But anyways, I didn't play him, so thanks a lot, guys. Anyways, defense or tight end, TJ?
Yeah, Bowers I do absolutely love, and I liked him more when he was lower owned earlier in the week because we had no value, but now with all this running back value, he's getting steamed up, and rightfully so. He's in a great spot. I think both McBride and George Kittle are totally viable tournament pivots. Hawkinson in the mid-tier, Freiermuth is going to be a guy I'll consider solely in my Russell Wilson stacks, but still probably not going to get to this week. Great call last week. But this is more of, I think, an outside over-the-top week for against this defense. Jawan Jennings at 34 and Foster Moreau at 31. I think both of them are very interesting for tournaments. And then Chiga Kongwu, I think, is the one way to play guy to play with Levis while getting different with your Levis stacks because everybody else is playing Westbrook, Akine, and Ridley. I'm not saying do him solely instead of one of those, or instead of both of those. I still think you want to play at least one of them if you're playing Levis, but a Congo is a nice way to get different.
Chig. Been trying to make that guy work forever. Yeah, all right, let's move on over to defense and then build a team. Or should we just start building a team? Defense, I mean, let's think logically, right? Like Pittsburgh, the top end, with against Jameis, always live for pick sixes. Saints against Drew Lock, who looked terrible. It is Lock this week, right? Like,
yeah.
Yeah. Is Cullets hurt, or did he get demoted?
Hurt.
Yeah. Was it like a done for the season thing, or is it? We don't know.
We don't know yet. Like, I think it probably would be like it makes sense to go done for the season, but at the same time, like the reason they went with him over Locke in the first place was incentives. And Locke's contract are all based on how many snaps he plays. So I don't know that they may want to get him out of there as quick as they can.
Says he practiced fully this week, but
Locke sucks. Don't let people influence you that think he's good.
I don't think he's good in real life.
Just
I think
needs
he's
a
good for fantasy.
People just like him because he rapped on the sidelines.
It's true. That was cool.
I mean, that was awesome, right?
I like it.
Yeah.
Breece Hall officially out for week 14.
Yeah, I think there's rumors that he was at the hospital getting with a top surgeon.
Yeah, some random person was like, I went to see my orthopedic surgeon and Breece Hall was here.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Titans D against Jacksonville. I don't know. Play whoever yet. Do we have what's the cheapest D?
Cheapest ones I think I'd consider
Bears.
Browns and Bears.
Browns and Bears. Yeah.
We know Kirk likes a GP.
Falcons and Jaguars, I think, are viable.
A cheap D. I mean, nothing. That was a craving like a cheap D.
My sneaky ones that I will be going with are Seattle and the Cardinals, because I think people always think Cardinals games are better than they are for offense. They always project well, but Cardinals are such a bend but don't break defense. They don't give that many points. Both of, like, especially Geno, every now and then he gets a little interception happy. But the Seahawks, too, against the Cardinals, I think are in a great spot, because I don't think the Cardinals offense is going to do that much. Seahawks 2,800, they've been playing much better recently. I think both of them are super sneaky. I think Dolphins are viable. Vikings are really nice at low ownership. Saints and Steelers and Titans all look good, but I'll probably try and avoid them at such high ownership.
I've been overestimating the Cardinals ever since like the beginning of like Cliff Kingsbury coming and the air raid and all that.
Mhm.
Like had us all juiced up, like we were all ready. All right, let's build a team here. Who do we want to use it? What's the stack? So who do we want to use at quarterback?
AOC or Allen.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think we either do the Allen with the 3 cheap running backs, or
Allen
we
it
do the
is.
AOC Myers O'Connell.
Allen it is. Easy
Sorry,
pick for me.
AOC Bowers Myers. Allen
So
it is.
what do we want to do? We want to go all cheapies?
Yeah.
Charbonnet, Guerrero, and Allen. Unless we want to use like Swift.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Wide receiver. We don't need to stack Josh Allen. Do we want to bring back is the question.
I don't think so. But first, I think we want to see, do we want a spend down tight end, or do we want to go all the way up to Bowers?
I'd say go McBride.
If we go McBride, let's get Jacoby.
All right, McBride.
I want at least some piece of that Raiders basket.
Jacoby. Let me see some.
I'm leaning go Bowers and fade Myers, but
okay, let me check. Well, if we do the McBride, we can certainly have a nice lineup. Let me take off. We put Bowers in.
do we want Jennings?
Just feels wrong. It's such chalk, but he's not. Yeah, so I mean that's like at the chalk. You can go like Judy, London, John Jennings. Let's try to get Mike Evans in there.
I like that.
It's gonna be tough. But let's see.
I think it's doable if we do the Bowers route, because then
I have Bowers in right now, so I just
yeah. So then, if
Jameis stack we could do.
leaves us a 4. Are there any 4,300 viable receivers? Because if we go punt tight end, if we go punt defense, then this actually does work, but not really.
Well, we could go.
We need 48 to get to London for the next nice one.
Well, we could go Juwan Jennings. We could go Juwan Jennings and Elijah Moore.
I like that.
So it would be Josh Allen with the 3 cheap running backs: Charbonnet, Allen, Guerrero.
That's a nice squad.
That's really nice.
It's naked with Mike Evans, Juwan Jennings, Elijah Moore with Tillman on the shelf, and a Titans D or whoever you want at D.
Like, we have 3,100 left for D, so yeah, anybody we want really. Or it can even punt and go somebody more expensive than Moore. You could probably get up to. No, can you quite get up to Judy? No, not quite. We could do Keenan Allen.
Problem is Elijah Moore is the only cheap guy in that range. It feels like.
I like Thielen.
We could go down to
or Jordan Addison too, and you're not playing Jefferson. Like, I think there's a lot of good options there.
Yeah, there's a lot there. All right, so that's that. Let's give the people my UFC plays for today. I know everybody's here wants them badly. I have bet on Aljamain Sterling at plus 210. It's gone down a little bit right now. I'm not going too heavy on it because dog, but I think he wins. I am also the Choi Landauer fight is ending early. It's you can take the under or fight does not go the distance there. I also like as a dog Cody Durden. I'm not going crazy with him, but potentially for like a parlay piece, Cyril Gahn. Those are my plays. J3, you got him. The UFC lock of the day. You know what I'm gonna say? Even though he's a dog, Aljamain Sterling is the lock of the day.
This is my favorite dog right here. This is the dog that I'm going with.
Well, I'll give you my favorite dog too.
The chat was asking how Phil was doing.
Yeah, he's deaf. He's right there. He's right next to me. He's chilling. Phil, you're on camera.
Your dog's deaf. My dog's blind in one eye.
Yeah.
J3 says we want TJ to mass multi-enter MMA today. I am unfortunately a little shell-shocked from the last time I MME'd in MMA and my highest owned guy's fight got canceled. And so I actually haven't played since.
The lowest low of my life was DFS wise was staying up till 5 a.m. for video game DFS, whatever, League of Legends. No, what was the thing? What do you call it? And the first time I played, I spent all this time like asking people and getting like had this lineup, and my freaking video gamer got scratched. Like, and he didn't, and I got to like, I didn't, I was like, what, how do you get scratched from sitting on your couch playing a video game? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That was the lowest of the low, and I never went back after that. But anyways, good times. Let's crush it this week, boys. This is a fun slate. Noto, hope you continue your great run that you've had this NFL season. TJ, I hope you bink something. And obviously, I hope I win something too myself. But all right. For TJ, for Noto, for Bobby Gomes, wherever he may be, should be back next week. This has been the Tournament Takes podcast, week 14 edition, and we will catch you next week. Thanks.